I'll get the meeting started in a second. First off, I imagine everybody on Zoom can hear me. Brooke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I also want to make sure that we have quorum before we can still do reports and everything. I just want to make sure we have quorum for voting later. Right now, I see June, John, Harry, and Alex. I also see a Samsung. I just don't know if that's anybody on the board or not. Oh, and then Alan is here, so we're good. Is Samsung one? Is that somebody on the board or is that
If it may be me. I'm on twice.
oh,
Um,
that could be you then. Okay.
yeah, so I can hear on this one. I can't see.
Okay, no worries. We have enough now. I saw Alan and Gentry joined as well. So I'll chair tonight's meeting just because we're on via Zoom to make it easy. Also, Brooke, did you confirm that you can hear me? Sorry if you can't.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry for.
Fantastic. Well, I will get started. Thank you for joining remotely. We had decided to do this, I think on Friday. Brooke and I talked about this, just that we didn't have to plan of doing this in person. So thanks for being flexible. Luckily, COVID taught us how to do this online. So I will call the meeting order at 6 o'clock p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Actually, I can't see a flag. No one can see a flag. I'm just going to skip that because it's going to be chaos if all of us are doing it via Zoom. I think we all actively do that every single meeting. So, approval of the agenda, which is before you for January 6th. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Okay. I heard Gentry, and then is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Alex. And I can't see really your video when you're doing this because we're kind of the side. So when you make a motion or second, just say Gentry motion, just so I know. I can tell most of your voices though. So all in favor of the approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Okay, move on to the approval of the minutes for December 2nd. Brooke emailed those to you. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Okay, June, is there a second?
Harry seconds.
Okay, awesome. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Okay, I see a couple guests on here, so we'll just do some quick introductions. If you're part of the DAB, just say you're part of the DAB and maybe what part you're from. And if you're not, then just tell us why you're here. And I'll just start. Dalton Glasscock, serve on the Wichita City Council, and I live in the Delano District. I'll pass it off to June, and I'll just say the name beforehand, so you don't have to worry about hopping. So, June.
Okay. June Johnson. I live in the Cascade neighborhood, which is Mason Kellogg, and I'm a member of the DAB.
Fantastic. Brooke.
Hey everyone, can you see me in there? My name's
Oh,
Brooke
look
Couch.
at you.
Hi, I'm here just in case folks show up in person. I work with Councilmember Glasscock for residents in Southwest Wichita, and I help with board kind of liaising the different admin tasks. So
Thanks for being there, Brooke. Brooke and I thought it'd be easier doing it via me here on Zoom, and we didn't know the whole reception back and forth as well. The city stipulates that we have to have an in-person location, so a lot of the other DABs are canceling this week. I think we might be the only one actually taking place so far. So, Gentry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gentry Thiessen. I serve on the DAB and I live just west of the airport. Thanks.
Some Harry.
Harry Willis. I serve on the DAB, and I live off of 31st and Meridian.
Some Alex.
Hi, everyone. Garcia here. I live off of Pawnee and Meridian on the board.
Awesome. And Alex also chairs the DAB just today. I thought it was easier via Zoom. James.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. James Williams. I'm your District 4 appointee to the Wichita Sustainability Board.
Steve.
Steve Hammerski, the Alfred Branch Manager.
John.
John Whitmer. I live at 135th and Pawnee, and I'm on the DAB.
Okay. John Eck.
Yeah, John Eck with the Wichita Fire Department.
Heather.
Heather Byers, a local artist, here to talk about the Alfred Library tonight.
Jessica?
I'm Jessica Wolf. I'm also an artist from Cincinnati.
Stephanie?
Stephanie Yeager. I am a member of the DAB and I live at 47th and Meridian.
Alan? Alan, you're muted.
Can you call Cindy on your phone and ask her how I get in here?
I think you're on here, Wally, so we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. All right, I can hear you, but
Okay, we can hear you, Wally.
okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll skip Alan for now. Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Raycoon. I am a designer with Hutton. We are designing and building the Alfred remodel, and I'm here to talk about the progress with that and talk about art tonight.
Awesome. Dr. Henry?
Justin Henry, Superintendent of Goddard, and I'll be presenting in a few minutes. And Brooke, thank you for all your great communication via Zoom.
Officer Kaus?
Yeah, this is Officer Kaus from the Patrol South Bureau.
Okay. Jeanette? Looks like Jeanette's with documenters, from what I can tell. So, Alex Martinez?
Hello, it's I serve on the DAB, Alex Martinez, and I live near Pawnee and Seneca.
Okay, two last people. Christina?
Hi, everyone. I am Christina Reith. I am with the City of Wichita Planning Department.
And then Officer Soto.
Hey, everybody. Officer Anthony Soto, and I'm with Patrol West Community Police.
Okay, awesome. I think I got everybody, and Alan is on the Bicycle Steering Committee. Or Wichita Bicycle Pet Advisory Board, I think is the new name. Okay, I think that's everybody on here. So move on to report from the Wichita Fire Department. John Eck, take it away.
All right, thanks, guys. I won't keep you too long today. I was hoping to make it down and be in person, but maybe next time. A couple things we have going on. You guys are probably already aware. We purchased ground for a new station at Pawnee and Maze Road, so you will be on track for a new station in your area to give you some extra coverage. And also, we have a new brush truck coming in. We're finalizing. This is for the grass fire season, so it'll be ready in the spring. It's going to be run out of 47th and Broadway, but it will respond in the District 4 area. We also just graduated another class of 6 recruits, and we have another academy starting up for too long here. So we are maintaining our numbers. A few fires in District 4 on November 27th. We had a large fire, apartment fire at 500 block of Laclede. That was parking was underneath the apartment, and a vehicle started a fire, and it worked up into the apartment. There was a fire at 3800 South Meridian, either unattended smoking or unattended candles. And then 400 block of South Osage, which was a boarded up house, no utilities. So someone started that, probably a warming fire. I tell you all that because we have just a safety message for this month. I know you guys get it from me every time, but right now we have a lot of people using different methods to keep warm in their house. So if you have any kind of heater that runs on propane or burns any kind of fuel, you can't burn that inside. We have had issues with people doing that, and it'll suck the oxygen out of the room, and we'll have the carbon monoxide problems. And then electric heaters are safe inside, but we need to make sure we're plugged in right to the outlet and don't overload that outlet. The electric heaters pull more amps, more watts, so you have to make sure your electricity is done right on that. And your fireplace, don't burn any trash in your fireplace, only wood. and make sure those ashes go in a metal can because we had a lot of fires from the clean out there. And then also a good idea is that get your chimney cleaned every year. Make sure we don't have any buildup in there. We've had a couple chimney fires the last couple days where that fire will start in the chimney and try to work out to the roof. So those are some safety issues to be aware of. That is about all I have for today, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Captain Neck? Not. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll hop on to Wichita Police Department. We'll start with Officer Cowles.
Yes, hello again, everybody. I'm going to cover some of the stats for both Officer Soto and I for the District 4, since it covers both South and West. Across the board, everything is down except for robbery. It shows it's up 50%. That's 3 cases compared to 2, so it's 1 more case, but it always shows as an alarming number. Everything else is still then down as well, except for auto theft. It's up 3%. 3%. It's 31 cases compared to 30. And these are month-to-month comparison cases. So if you compare from last year, we're pretty much across the board right where we're at last year. So nothing major going from there. Out of the South Bureau, some of the things that have been done over the past month, our teams have focused, it was on Cake News as well, but the theft assignments for retail organized crime was something that we focused on, and that was roughly $53,000 that we were able to recover from retail crime. And then additionally with the bad weather, obviously this has been all over the news as well. A lot of our resources have been allocated to monitoring and helping out with accidents, even though ERP has been in effect. But we are working as busy as we can on that. So obviously we try to save. So appreciate the meeting being over Zoom tonight. The only other thing I'm going to cover is that here on the 16th, we have roughly 30 recruits who are going to graduate and start the field training program. 4 months of training. There is another set of roughly 30 recruits that will start in the academy immediately following that by just a couple of days. And that will be another 6.5 months of class training for them. So that's all I have out of the South Bureau. Soto, do you have anything from West that you'd like to talk about?
The only thing I'll add, Patrol West, just so everybody knows, in December we did a toy drive where we handed out toys and gave toys to children who are part of houses of families involved with domestic violence. It was very successful, and we actually brought a Santa in and made a lot of kids happy. So other than that, Officer Cowles, I think he covered everything, and I think that's all we got.
Does anybody have questions for us, either West or South?
Yeah, this is Harry Willis. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I understand that the police department is going to be handing out clubs to help kind of deter car theft in Wichita. Is that a true statement? And if so, is there any update on when those become available?
So that is not something that I have been told or am aware of. There has been programs in the past, particularly for Kia and Hyundai, since those are very easy cars to steal, that there was a program put in place with Midwest Kia as a partnership to be able to do the clubs. But I can, if you want to, I can send you my email, or if Brooke give it to you, that I can try to research that and get that back in touch with you.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Any other questions for Officer Cowles or Officer Soto? Okay, thank you both for being here. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
One thing I'll add just for Wichita Police Department, given the weather conditions this weekend, the HOT team, homeless outreach team, did weather response and tried to do outreach to some of the citizens that are living on the streets. The weekend report was that there was 110 total contacts made. 76 individuals refused entry into the emergency shelter. 21 individuals said maybe later, and 13 individuals accepted shelter. So I'm thankful for 13 individuals, and we just have to figure out more ways for people to build trust with the emergency shelter and get people in, especially if people aren't coming in when conditions are this cold. So That's an update from the homeless outreach team as well. We'll move on to the library report. And we have Steve Hammerski from the library to talk about that.
Okay. Our December attendance at Alfred was 4,056, which was up 923 from last December. Our circulation was 7,034, which was up 1,173 from 2023. So for the 2024 year, in circulations, we were down 4,202 compared to 2023. But for the gate count, for the number of people who came in the library, we are actually up 1,378. So library closings, Monday, January 20th will be closed for Martin Luther King Day. Also, the Winter Evolve Guide is now available electronically and in print here at Alfred. It lists activities for the library, city arts, and parks and rec for the next couple months. So please check those out. On December 29th, the Read ICT Challenge book categories were announced. There's a challenge to read 12 books over one a month for over the year. Beginning January 4th, a pop-up cafe in partnership with Legacy Works will operate in the cafe space on the first floor of the Advanced Learning Library from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every Saturday through March. Legacy Works employs local teens to gain professional development, increase their personal confidence, and access financial resources to ensure youth in the area have transferable skills that will aid in a successful transition into adulthood. On January 17th, the Advanced Learning Library will host a screening of the Bring Them Home documentary, which is a film narrated by Academy Award nominated Blackfeet Nez Perce actor Lily Gladstone. It tells the story of a small group of Blackfoot people and their mission to establish the first wild buffalo herd on their ancestral land since the species near extinction a year ago. On January 25th, a Lunar New Year celebration will take place at the Advanced Learning Library. Bring in good fortune and learn about annual traditions from this year's Miss Wichita Asian Festival and the East High Lion Dance Club. Alfred specific, the remodel has begun. We are now operating out of our meeting room and using our drive-up window. We have probably about 10 to 15% of our collection that is available to be checked out. Our weekly story time on Monday is currently being held at the Machinist Union building. All our other programs have been moved to other library branches, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, any questions, Steve? Okay, well, we look forward to seeing the renovations when they're all complete. So we'll see you in person soon.
All right, me too.
Okay, move on to the public agenda. This is, we'll start with the scheduled items actually first. So James Williams is my appointee to the District 4 Sustainability Board. And so I'll have James give a brief introduction of himself. I've asked all my appointees, I think there's 31 of them from different boards and committees, to come and speak at different times throughout the year, just to give you an update of what they're doing and some of their committee in the city. So James, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. James Williams with Black Hills Energy. I've been the appointee for a couple of years now to the Sustainability Board, and we've been working on a lot of different things. Before I get too far into it, council member, how much time do you want me to spend? And I was kind of prepared to talk about the climate action plan, but I'm happy to go anywhere you want me to take that.
Yeah, try to keep it around 5 minutes, but then open up for questions. If you had something prepared longer, that's fine. Keep it around 5 minutes if possible.
Sure thing. So I've been with Black Hills Energy for coming up on 6 years now, and I was tasked to be a part of the Sustainability Board. And really my role at Black Hills Energy is just what I consider to be an energy educator.
Bring me my keys.
And over the last year or so, we've been working on this climate action plan that I'll just go ahead and share a screen with you really quick, and I'll just fly through a couple key points that are worth mentioning. As we talk about this, you know, it was really one of my goals as a part of the committee's work is to focus on making sure that we don't lose sight of our economic prosperity, and we don't hold back anything economically as we work to achieve sustainable goals. And I'll go through this a little bit rather quick, but the climate action plan talks about other climate action plans that they've looked at, and it's worth mentioning that Black Hills Energy helped on the Lincoln, Nebraska climate action plan, where we talked about compressed natural gas fleet vehicles, and I actually helped out with the Douglas County, Kansas climate action plan, where we came up with some interesting things. I'll kind of scroll through this for the sake of time. It talks about drought being an important issue, and that's something I think you're going to take away from all this, is that there's a lot of words and a lot of topics that encompass sustainability. I personally think that the group should focus more on drought related issues, and that's something where I personally see a lot of momentum at the city and an opportunity where we can make meaningful impact. It talks about a greenhouse gas inventory and where emissions come from, whether it's commercial energy, residential energy from electric, or residential energy from natural gas, or aviation and transportation are all different segments that it looked at. Something that's important to me personally, as we think about this climate action plan, is something called mitigating and adaptation. And I'm always going to advocate for adaptation goals. Those are things that I'll talk to you right now. Is a perfect example of weatherization. You know, I hope you all are. I echo Captain X comments that you're heating your home safely right now, because it's very cold right now, and there's simple steps we can do to lower our bill, reduce our energy and lower our bill. Those are examples of adaptation, and so those are tangible benefits that we can get by being just a little smarter with our energy usage, setting our thermostat to 68, you know, tightening the envelope of our homes. Those are simple, easy things that we can do and see some value as a result of it. It does talk about, you know, green buildings and energy audits, and just, you know, when I think about all this, I just try and think about, you know, what would I do if, I mean, it is my money. I'm a Wichita citizen, obviously, but if this were my home and this were my budget, how would I spend it, knowing what I know about the energy mix? And my only question about green buildings is they just cost more. And so all these things are going to have a cost to them, and that's ultimately going to be a decision that will involve a much broader dialogue among the community to talk about, you know, what are the things we want to prioritize at a time the city is facing a shortfall. For the sake of time, I'll just speed through this a little bit more. Again, this climate action plan highlights weatherization programs. This is something that we are implementing through a grant. So income eligible homeowners and renters will be able to receive those weatherization kits to make simple steps to weatherize their home. Let me see here. Just for the sake of time, I'll just skip a couple of these things. Let me go here. It talks about equitable green spaces and replacing the tree canopy. This is something that Black Hills Energy has a passion for. You know, we've donated hundreds of trees to our service territory. That's something that I think would be a good example of a public-private partnership where there would be some momentum. And then obviously down here toward the bottom, it talks about water conservation. We're all certainly probably familiar with what's happening at Cheney Lake and what can we all be doing, and maybe equally important, what can the sustainability board be doing to encourage smart water usage? I think that's kind of it for the sake of time that I'll talk about, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it back over to the board for any further discussion.
To keep it organized on Zoom, there's a React at the bottom of your Zoom. There's a React thing. It looks like a heart. If you click on that, you can raise hand, and then people can ask questions. And then let me try to call on you, just because via Zoom, it's a little harder to communicate. Before I open up questions, I'll give kind of a brief of my perspective on the draft action plan, the sustainability. I think everybody wants clean water, clean air, and they want a clean Wichita. So I'm thankful for James to serve on the board, especially as the energy expert, because he can let people on the board know what's actually possible on the grid and what's possible instead of lofty goals that may be unattainable or unachievable. I think we all want to be good stewards of the environment. And so when I'm looking at this plan, when it comes before the council, I want to look at what are cost savings for the city that can be beneficial. So if it's changing to more energy efficient lights, can that save us money in the long term? That's a good thing that I think we should move forward. So what's economically advantageous for the city? I'm not supporting any mandates on our citizens. So if there's something on there that mandates something on our citizens, I won't be supporting that. But I also agree with his comments regarding adapting versus mitigating. I think we do need to adapt. That's how we should focus on it, weatherization, and how do we encourage that as a community. I used to do utility scale wind and solar projects across the state. So I'm passionate support of renewable technologies when it makes sense. And so if there's ways that it can make sense for the city moving forward, then I think we should look at those. So those are kind of my thoughts. I'm interested in hearing one, raise your hand to ask questions, and then also raise your hand if you have thoughts that you want to share, because James does serve on the board that's looking at how do we do drought mitigation, how do we handle a lot of the challenges facing the city. So John, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Dalton. James, thank you for putting your time into this. I can tell you as the chairman of the Sedgwick County Republican Party, this has actually become a major issue that our members have expressed a lot of concern about. I just want to confirm, James, that there is not a single dime of Wichita taxpayer money that will go into this nonsense, correct?
I'm not sure I can say that, John. And the reason I say that is I think that the Wichita Sustainability Board is one of the few advisory boards that does have city funds tied to it. And currently those funds are being used, I believe, to pay for a part-time sustainability.
Yeah. Outside of the staff, I meant the plan itself, because they came and made a very informative presentation to us.
Okay.
And correct, yes, there are a couple of staff positions, but before they implement any, my understanding is it's a grant that they're looking for from the federal government, which again is taxpayer money, but I'm more concerned about local taxpayer money. As you mentioned, it's a $22 million budget shortfall. And the last thing when we're dealing with a shortfall we need to be doing is focusing money on climate change. The last thing I would suggest is folks who are interested should visit junkscience.com. It's a very informative website that exposes the religion that is climate change.
So what I'll say to that is, I think you're right that the current plan relies heavily on grants to achieve what they need to achieve.
Thank you, and thank you again for serving.
You bet. Happy to do it.
Any other questions, comments? I don't see any of their hands raised right now, but some people may not know how to raise hands. So if you have comments and your hand isn't raised, just jump in right now. Okay, seeing none. Last thing I'll add to James's presentation is that while it's a plan, every individual item has to come before the city council. And so this is supposed to guide the city over the next 10 years, but the actual agenda items would come before the city council at different times as well. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you for serving. And if anybody has any questions about other work the Sustainability Board's doing, especially ideas for drought mitigation, please reach out to James. That's something that we're trying to look more at, obviously. So thanks, James.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Be safe.
Okay, now we move to off-agenda items. This is the time, if you're here and you haven't signed up to speak about anything, but you would like to speak about anything, you have up to 5 minutes. So is there anybody from the public that would like to speak about something not on the agenda right now? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the new business. This was a request from Wally at the last district advisory board meeting. He wanted to hear from Goddard School District about what's happening in Goddard. And so we've asked Dr. Henry. He graciously accepted very quickly. And so thank you, Dr. Henry. I think Brooke reached out to him in the first week after Wally asked. We are unique in District 4 that we have students at Goddard. We have students in USD 259 and students in Hayesville as well. And so Dr. Henry, thank you for being with us. I know that you have a presentation, and so if you're able to share your screen, Brooke should be able to allow that as well.
I think since it's via Zoom, I'll just present, and if people have questions, do my best to answer those. And if there's something I can send you later and you want to get out to the group, that may be easier.
Perfect. I'll make one last comment too. Dr. Henry is also, he was formerly the District 4 appointee to the Wichita Library Board. He got term limited from that, and so now he's my appointee to the Wichita Ethics Board. So he's still serving District 4 and a resident of District 4 as well. So thank you for service there as well. The floor is yours.
Sure. Appreciate it. I'll try to make the presentation around 5 minutes, and that way you guys have questions and keep you on schedule. To your opening point, so in our area, and specifically for our school district, we start at the airport and then go west to 247th Street roughly. And it's not a perfect square, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. And then jigsawing south, roughly 55th Street South is our border up to Central in most places. So 65 square miles. And one of the questions we get often is, how come school districts' boundaries aren't congruent to city limits? Which, fair question. In other places, they may represent a city or a county. Kansas, it goes back to the mid-60s when there was consolidation, and you went from a large number of school districts down to a little bit over 300. I believe it was 312 at the time. So at that time, for a school district to be formed, they had to have either a certain number of students, amount of square mileage, or assessed evaluation. And you had to hit two of those three indicators. So the easiest way to think about this is if you look at the USD numbers, typically they align with geography, but not always. What that really went back to is when these 700 or 800 school districts in the mid-60s consolidated down to 300 plus, they then submitted their information to KSDE. In the order of the USD number is simply the order they were approved by the State Department at that time. So it really had nothing to do with my understanding of city or county lines, but everything to do with hitting those criteria that were in statute. So for us, I think roughly 70% of our students in district have a Wichita address, and then the remaining 30% would have a Goddard address. Current growth, up until a year or two ago, we had, I think, 36 consecutive years of student enrollment growth in the Goddard School District, which was the longest streak in the state to our knowledge. 2016, 17-ish, we started working with Davis Demographics, who is out of primarily Dallas. I think they may also have an office in California. And they come in and they look at three factors when they're trying to project your growth. They look at birth rates, they look at mobility factors within your district in and out, and they look at student yield factors as far as percent of school-age kids that attend your school district in your boundaries. When they came in 16 or 17, their projection for us was slightly increasing enrollment for the near term, which is a pretty good place to be. If you're going to be at 1 or 2%, that gives you the ability to plan. You are not like a majority of the other school districts in Kansas that are facing declining enrollment and making cuts, but it's growth that's manageable. Then after the pandemic, they came in to update that study. And a couple things happened, not just for us, but nationally. Birth rate has dramatically decreased. Going back 15 years ago, I think our district would have anticipated for every new foundation, you would have almost one student. Nationally, that average is now, I believe, around 0.36. For us, it's dropped to 0.48, so still considerably above the national average, but a drop indeed from what it used to be. So as we rolled out of the pandemic, and you started to see some subdivisions being built within our district, the thought by many was, well, you're getting ready to have a big bubble of growth, meaning 21 or 22. The reality is at that time we were basically flat. One was because of decrease in birth rate. The other was the national trend of people, quote, aging in place. So you're starting to see more people, especially in suburban districts. When their kids graduate, they're not moving. They're not taking on a bigger house, and they're not downsizing because maybe they're working from home and they need that second or third bedroom that used to be their child's bedroom. So visually, people were seeing construction. What they weren't seeing was the number of homes in our district that were becoming vacant of school-age kids. So that's why we had a 3 or 4 year trend of basically flat to slightly increasing. As construction, obviously, in our district took a dramatic increase over the last year or two. We brought Davis Demographics back, and they actually come on site and they work with a variety of neighboring districts. So they have a good relationship, not just with the city planners, but also with county planners and with developers. And they come on site and work directly with those groups and meet with them in person. Then they can do some of their data points, such as birth rates and mobility factors from databases. Their updated study, and maybe the reason we're visiting tonight, projects that over the next decade, we'll have 5,900 homes or front doors built in our district. If you think about the factor per student, we're basically projected to grow 2,000 students over the next decade. Our current enrollment, depending on if you're using FTE or head count, is somewhere around 6,300. So in the next 5 years, roughly a 15% increase. And then theoretically, if the study held, and there's many factors when you get in those out years, 30% increase. That's a good thing. If you have the choice of being a declining enrollment district or a growing district, I think you want the opportunities that come with growth versus being a shrinking community, no different than Sedgwick County or the city of Wichita, looking for ways to continue to grow and invest in the area versus some other counties, maybe in western Kansas, that are just struggling to have any type of positive population trends. Johnson County, interesting enough, where we think about school districts rapidly growing. What I was told earlier this year, only one Johnson County school district actually increased in student enrollment. So while it's easy to view this as, wow, this is a challenge and how do you stay in front of it? Definitely, I think our area should be grateful that we have continued opportunities to plan and think about how this can impact students. So as we specifically think about growth, the number we're looking at right now is planning on 1,000 over the next 5 years, and then possibly up to 2,000 students in the next 10 years. So I'll pause there and see what questions or information would be helpful for you guys.
Yeah. If you have a question, try to raise your hand if you know how to on here, and I'll call on you. If not, if you don't know how, then hop in. I'll start with a question because I don't see anybody else's hands right now. So obviously this board talks about zoning a lot, and we had a conversation regarding a zoning case, not in Goddard, but near Hayesville. And one of the concerns from residents were if the school district was consulted when zoning multifamily units to see if the capacity was there for them to handle the increase of students. So that was a question more in the Hayesville area. So one, how would you address that? And obviously it seems that you're saying yes to growth. So that might be the answer. And then second to that, out of the 2,000 new students expected, or the 5,900 homes, what percent of those are in Wichita proper versus Goddard or versus the county land?
I don't know that. I can
Okay.
send you the list at some point, and
Okay.
you probably have seen most of them, but I definitely can send to you. As far as zoning and tax abatements, etc., I think as a school district, we stay out of that. Cities and counties have expertise, and we kind of leave that up to them. We'll do what City of Goddard, City of Wichita, or Sedgwick County feel is best and adjust accordingly. We appreciate all three being involved in having meetings with us, but when it comes down to those type of things, I think you're better suited than we are to make those decisions.
Yeah. Thanks. I know that was a concern from one of the residents, so thanks for answering that question. I don't see another hand except John, so I'm going to call on John.
Thank you, Dalton. Justin, I would say that one of the biggest issues that came out, certainly nationally, at the state level, in the county races, has been property taxes. The county has raised our property taxes repeatedly over the last few years. The city of Wichita has raised our property taxes. And frankly, the Goddard School Board has raised our property taxes repeatedly over the last few years. I know Wally and I could tell you mine went up 18%. I want to know if you have any additional plans to raise property taxes over the next 2 to 4 years.
Our general mill levy trend, 2014 was 69.8 mils. Our current mill levy is 54.6. So assessed evaluation, I assume, is driving most of what you're talking about, not necessarily.
Yeah, well, but what I'm referring to is the fact that you continue to recapture the revenue neutral rate, which is essentially a property tax increase.
Our budget continues to grow, as does our student enrollment. And for schools, that's kind of twofold, because we're getting an increase in students. But the way the funding formula works, obviously the state's only picking up 20 mils. So if we don't capture the remaining LOB, I'm not sure exactly how we would be able to operate.
Well, you find efficiencies, but
when the funding formula is set in place, I believe in 92, the statewide mill levy was 36. Probably somebody at the legislative level could answer that better than I, as far as discussions is, should it be a higher statewide tax or should it be left to local LOBs? Because everything in our budget is set up as assessed evaluation per pupil. And when you're a property poor district and you don't have Burlington like a Wolf Creek's in the middle, that does make a struggle. So I understand what you're asking.
I think we both know, Justin, you know what I'm asking. You're just dancing around it, but that's fine. Thank you, Dalton.
Dalton, you're muted.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was hoping not to do that the entire time. Okay, I don't see any other hand up, so I'll see if anybody has any other questions. Just hop in if you do. Okay. Dr. Henry, thank you. I'm glad for the partnership. Dr. Henry and I have met, I think, a few times now since being sworn in. And I'm thankful for the partnership that Wichita has with the Goddard School District, and I know that'll continue. And I also wanted to recognize Kevin McWhorter's on here, I believe formerly on the Goddard School Board. I don't think you're currently on anymore, if I remember right. But thank you for the time here. And if anybody has any other questions, I imagine you can send them to Brooke. Brooke will send them to Dr. Henry and get you answers as well.
Sure. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is zoning.
Dalton?
Yes, Wally?
Yeah, I have several questions.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I was like, you're the one that requested Dr. Henry to be here. So,
right. And I understand and appreciate what Dr. Henry says. And every time we approve a zoning to multifamily from single family, I can see a bigger school budget. But I've lived in the Goddard School District for 49 years. I've paid my share of 3 high schools and 6 grade and intermediate schools. And I'm not in a position where I'm willing to pay because people want to move into the Goddard School District. It's my opinion and opinion of most of my neighbors is if you want to move in, you need to pay for the new schools, not the people who are already here. I mean, you have to pay for streets in a new development, sewers, all this, and schools should be part of the assessment on these 53 new developments, not on the bond issues I'm talking about. The operational expenses, I can understand sharing those equally, but the building of the new schools for these people who want to move into this district, they need to pay for the building facilities. or the bond issues?
Well, okay. I didn't know if you fell off or not. So do you have a
No,
specific question for Dr. Henry, or is that just to share some comments?
No, well, I'd like to know what Dr. Henry's idea is on who's going to pay these bond issues for the new school buildings.
Yeah, I'm not sure my idea matters. Legislature sets how bond issues are paid. Again, it's a percent of assessed evaluation per pupil. Our current state aid on bonds is about 12%. It used to be 60%, so the state picked up more of that. And then around 16 or 17, they readjusted the state contribution. So it's actually gone the other way. We used to get more help at the state level because of our poor property value. Now for all districts, that's decreased.
Well, what do we need to do in the legislature to get this passed on to these new developments? I mean, I don't think it's fair or right if I've lived 49 years and I'm at the point where I retired 24 years ago, my retirement hasn't increased a dime, but yet the bond issues in the Goddard School District have more than doubled in the last 24 years.
Probably a good question for your legislator. If you'd like to come in and visit or get them to come in and visit with us, happy to be part of that.
And I think your state rep is Brian Burkamp, and your senator would be Senator Blasey, I believe.
Yeah.
And we would definitely be in favor of a more equalized bond issue, because I think it does penalize districts that have a low assessed evaluation per pupil.
Yeah, and it also penalizes the districts that where people want to stay in place.
Yep.
You know, I've been in the Goddard School District or owned property in it for 49 years. I retired here, and I think in planning my retirement, I certainly didn't plan and budget for taxes because people want to move into the Goddard School District, and I got to pay for more bond issues. And I don't think
to give me a call later on this week and you want to come in and visit, that'd be great.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Brooke, can you make sure that Wally has Dr. Henry's information too?
I have it.
Okay, great. I saw Alex's hand next. Alex?
Yeah. Dr. Henry, for one, thank you for joining us tonight. Very insightful. You got to say, we appreciate your time. I learned a lot with what you got to say. I have no questions. Since people would like to bring up opinions, I would just like to say that, I mean, people paid for things before we came here, before I lived here. I bought my house. I'm 26 years old, happy to be on the south side. I understand being on the south side over here, we've gone not our fair share of things, but at the end of the day, all I'm sharing is that I'm very happy and excited to pay my taxes to make sure that our schools are functioning as they should in the future. And I'll leave it there. Thank you, Dr. Henry. Hope you have a good night.
Thanks, Alex. Looks like June got unmuted. John, I'm going to hold and see if June has a comment real fast. June, did you have something?
I'm listening and absorbing and learning.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, June. I'll toss it back to John because I see his hands up.
Yeah, I mean, Wally got me thinking, and I mean, there's been a lot, and Justin, I know you like to go back to blaming the state, but if you look at your enrollment in 2022 was 6,004. Your enrollment in 2023 was 6,020, and your enrollment last year was 5,974. So your enrollment is either flat or gone down, yet your per pupil funding has gone up every year in those 3 years. So your funding is constantly going up every year. Your enrollment is flat or down every year, and yet you keep raising my property taxes every year. And this is a trend that I hear from, I mean, we did over 1,000 doors in your district this last summer on behalf of county commission candidates. And the number one issue was property taxes. And the county can only address that to an extent. The city of Wichita can only address that to an extent. The biggest culprit is Goddard, the school district. And now, next year, we're facing another bond initiative put forward by the Goddard schools for more spending on, if you build it, maybe they will come students that might materialize. And I think that's a big frustration that people like Wally and others are and have, is student achievement levels that are basically flat, funding keeps going up, and enrollment is essentially flat. So that, I guess you don't want to respond, which is fine, but that's the frustration that I think people have, is the school districts that keep raising taxes, but we're not getting a bang for our buck.
I appreciate your thoughts. I'm not sure that this is probably the appropriate place to have that debate.
I'm happy to have that conversation anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, we can take that offline. Okay, are there any other comments, questions, anything? Hop in. Okay, again, thank you for being here. And Brooke can follow up with your information if people have further questions as well. So hope you enjoy the rest of the night.
Oh, we love having snow days, Dalton. Thank you.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll hop on to the zoning case that's on the agenda today. Zoning case 2024-00057. And it will be presented, I imagine, by Christina, given that's who I see from planning on here. So the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Christina Reith. Yes, Brooke, please feel free to share the screen, and I'll just basically summarize a report for you guys, zone 2457. So the applicant for this case, they're requesting a zone change on their property. It's zone single family residential, and they're requesting a zone change to MF29 multifamily residential. So this is a little bit under half an acre in size, and it's located on the west side of South Hanley Street, just near 43rd Street South. So the address for that is 4301 South Hanley. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, it's zoned for single family, but it's developed with 2 duplexes built in 1958. And I did a pretty good record search of this property. In case you're wondering, I was looking through microfilm, through hanging maps, and there was nothing that indicated that this that it was ever multifamily at one point. We don't want to say that it's necessarily non-conforming. I did talk about that a little bit in my report, but for us to declare something to be non-conforming, like, it has to have that status from the zoning administrator. So I'm not really sure how these duplexes were built necessarily. In my conversation with the property owner, I think they purchased this property over 20 years ago, so not when the duplexes were built. So the applicant is requesting the zone change to bring the existing structures into compliance, and then they would also like to build an additional 4-plex on site. So single family zoning, the highest residential density you can have is a single family dwelling. And then the additional 4-plex would bring the site to a total of 8 dwelling units on site, but the maximum that is actually allowed in this district is 13. And so should the zone change request be approved, it would allow changes to how big the lot can be, how wide the lot can be, where the structures can be placed on the property. And in my report that was distributed to you guys, there's a chart of just how the 2 zoning classifications compare for that. So for any multifamily that is developed on site, they are required to have the building set a little bit farther away than what's actually the minimum requirement, depending on how close they are to 1 or 2 family residential zoning, so SF5 or TF3. The compatibility setback standards, they can be waived through something called an administrative adjustment application through the planning department. While it does not require a public hearing, they are required to post a sign for the neighbors as part of that administrative adjustment application. So in case they want to remodel the 2 duplexes on site, and let's say that they don't meet the compatibility standards, they have the option of filing an additional application through the planning department for that. And then in addition to that, there's compatibility height standards. So because it is near single family zoning, the structures can't exceed 35 feet in height. Given the duplexes that are there, I don't see that being an issue. And same thing if they decide to build another 4-plex on site. This is a nearly half an acre site. One thing that they will have to do once they start remodeling, once a zone change request, if it is approved, they will have to do ensure that the screening is up to code as well as the landscaping. And so for the landscaping, they either have to verify that there are existing trees every 40 linear feet, and that's either 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees, or they will be required to submit a landscape plan saying this is what we're going to plant. This is just because it's going to be multifamily next to single family. And then for screening, a 6 to 8 foot fence is required where abutting single family residences. So they will either, I think there was already a fence there, but they will just need to ensure that it is, 6 to 8 feet and that it is completely screening in the sense that it extends the entire length of where it abuts single family zoning, and that it is kept in good condition. In addition to this, they do have parking requirements that are mandated by the Unified Zoning Code. And so for this one, they will be required to provide 1.25 parking spaces per efficiency and 1-bedroom dwelling units. Or if they're larger than, or if they're 2 bedrooms or larger, they are required to provide 1.75 parking spaces on site. They can also file, again, an administrative adjustment if they wish to reduce the minimum parking requirements. But again, given the size of the lot, I really don't see that being an issue for the applicant. So one thing that we were discussing is MF29, it does allow for up to 13 residential units. But if we look at the zoning map, which let's see what page that's on. It's on page, let's see, page 6 of the zoning report. Sorry, I forgot your PDF is different than, yep, so this one right here. So everything that you see in white, that is zoned single family. Everything that is zoned in green, light green, because there's a little dark green one there. So everything that is in light green is zoned MF29. So we're really not introducing a new zoning to this area. So let me see, I'm going to scroll back up on my report here. So there are no zoning cases associated with this property. It is not a paved street. It's an unpaved local street. It does not have any sidewalks. It does have access to all the city's services, which include water and sewer. And then we've got Wichita Transit at Seneca and 43rd. So the requested zone change, when we're doing an analysis and speaking about some of the policies that we implement, some of the plans that we publish, it is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. So the 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map recommends this site as appropriate for residential uses. And it's pretty broad. That category is pretty broad. It includes single family, 2-family, multifamily residences, senior homes, patio lots, et cetera, et cetera. And then within the Community Investments Plan, there's the land use compatibility guidelines, and as to what, if we're introducing a new use to an area, how compatible is it with the surrounding context? So, one of the guidelines states that accessory dwelling units, duplexes, and small scale multifamily developments can be appropriate in residential areas if the design of the buildings is compatible with the existing residences, the scale is compatible with the intensity of surrounding area, and if there's site design that limits adverse impacts on residential uses. So this is where the screening, the landscaping comes into play, making sure that it's compatible and it continues a harmonious development of the community. So there's also a local neighborhood plan called the South Wichita Hayesville Area Plan. And so they have within that area plan, there's its own future land use map, and identifies the area to be appropriate for residential medium density uses. And so it's this is a quote from the plan. It's intended to include both multifamily residential, such as apartments and manufactured home parks, meeting the new recommended development standards. And so if we look just west of the property, if you want to look at the aerial map there is what appears to be some manufactured homes on a single family lot, but nonetheless, it is appropriate for this area. So planning staff recommends that the zone change request be approved, subject to the golden rules that we abide by for every zoning case. I submitted this report, I believe, last week to Brooke, or the week before, I can't remember. And at that time, I did not receive any comments from the public on the requested zone change, and I have still not received any comments from the public on the requested zone change. And so if you just, Brooke, if you wouldn't mind just kind of going through the aerial and then the zoning map, just so people can see the visuals of, you know, how we determine that we are recommending approval of the zone change request and where it is in context. The site photos show the context of that neighborhood. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Christina? See no questions from the board. We'll go, I'll just see if there's anybody from the public. I see John's hand up. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak about this item? See none. John, I see your hands up.
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's go with Gentry or June. They're tied. So whatever one you like today.
You can
Brooke.
have it.
Okay.
Thanks, June.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. And Christina, I'll have Brooke send you how many voting members we have right now.
Okay, perfect. That was going to be my question. So thank you.
I'll have
Bob.
her just message it to you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Alfred Library renovation, art engagement. I know we have two of the artists on there, but I don't know if Allison, if you want to lead it and kick it off, and then we can toss it to the artists.
I'll kind of tee that up. So for those of you that weren't at DAB last in December, we kind of provided a preliminary introduction. I'm Allison Ray Kuhn. I'm with Hutton. We are the designer and the builder for the branch, as I mentioned earlier. We are also coordinating the artist for the branch. And so Alfred will receive 2 new art pieces as part of the remodel, a mural in the children's area and an art element in the new teen space. And so we have Heather Byers and Jessica Wolf, who are going to share a little bit more about their designs. We talked about their preliminary concepts at the December meeting, got a lot of good input from you all about resources in the community. Brooke shared quite a bit, and the library staff shared quite a bit. Jessica is based out of Cincinnati, but flew in Saturday morning to attend the teen advisory board for the libraries. They had a meeting on Saturday afternoon and was planning to attend today in person as well as part of that, but she's getting to see the airport hotel room a little bit more than she had planned on. So she's a trooper. She's hanging with us and dealing with our weather. So anyway, she will come and visit the branch in person tomorrow to see it. So anyway, yeah, exactly. If there are no questions for me, I will just turn it over to them. And Brooke, will you share the slides that I sent this afternoon? Does that work? No. All right. We'll let Heather talk first. Heather is the mural artist.
All right. Yeah, so like she said, Heather Byers, I think I probably met a lot of you last month. I'm doing the children's area, which is going to be a mural 96 feet long above the book stacks in the children's area of the Alfred Library. The kind of initial concept that I had was to do these really massive backpacks. They'll be, the height of the wall is between 6 and 7 feet. There's a little area with, I think, some ductwork or something. But basically the idea is to almost do a portrait of a kid by just showing how they've decorated their backpack. So they'll each have a lot of different keychains, patches, pins, stickers, you know, a lot of different things attached to the backpack. The inspiration from that just comes from seeing my own kids when I drop them off at school, and everybody's got a million different things hanging off of their bags. I think it's something that would really connect with the kids. And for me, with doing public art, the important thing to me is always making it welcoming and I guess to make the space feel like it belongs to the people who are going to be using it. So in this case, it would be the students, the kids that are there in the library. I want them to feel like it is theirs. So in to that end, I decided for the public input for mine that I would get surveys to area elementary schools. And so I printed a little over 600, I think 600 surveys, took them to Kelly, Woodman, and Franklin elementary schools, and then went back before the winter break to pick them up, and got so many just really great responses. I asked questions. I think you guys, again, saw those surveys here last month too, but if you didn't, there were questions about hobbies or interests, but also like, what do you want to do? How can you change the world? What are things that you enjoy? And also specific to the library, what are activities that they enjoy at the library? So using those responses, I went ahead and kind of made a different theme for each of the backpacks. So there's going to be 12 backpacks in total. This on your screen now is showing 4. If you're looking at it on a smaller device like I am right now, it's not very easy to see. I'm happy to send over some more images if anybody wants them via email, or whoever. I guess the people organizing it probably also have that. But anyway, so I have some kind of initial notes written down for some. If we go to the next slide, there's some that are a little bit more actually drawn up. You know, there's a lot of detail work to be done still. So a lot of kids are interested in video games, which was not surprising at all. Some had board games and card games in there too. So there's stuff like that, or kids that liked science class or really wanted to go visit specific places. So it's just kind of going off of any of those sort of answers, and then finding ways to visually represent those responses. You can go to the next slide. So then here's the last 4. I think, I mean, similar. It's just a lot of different notes, little initial ideas for the things that can go on there. That yellow backpack is going to have more kind of family stuff. I think maybe some little note maybe pinned on from a grandparent, a clear pouch in the front with photos in it. The arts and crafts one, I've started drawing a little bit more too, so it'll have like a clear pencil pouch with lots of different art supplies in it. Just a lot of fun, different ideas. Definitely open to if you have specific ideas for each of the themes. I have been just kind of racking my brain a little bit, trying to make sure that there's a lot of good variety. The one that I did with kind of cooking or food as a topic, we'll have actually some old Girl Scouts badges that I found from like the 50s for like outdoor cooking or creative cooking or things like that. So the main thing I'm really wanting to do is, one, make it fun and engaging, but also more timeless. I'm really trying to avoid things that are like maybe really, really popular right now, but in 5 years, nobody's really going to know what it is. Because I do know that there's you know, when kids are going to the library, a lot of times it's with their families. So I want those parents and grandparents to be able to pick things out too that maybe they recognize that the kids don't, but they still fit thematically. So that's kind of the general idea there. Another idea that I kind of came up with just this past week as I'm going through all of these surveys. Part of it on the backside was for kids to draw. I just said, draw whatever you like, draw your favorite thing. And so there were a lot of really great responses there. And I wanted to find a way to incorporate some of that too. And I found a way I think that'll work really nicely with the background. If you can go to the next slide. So again, I don't know how big of a screen you're working with, but some of the drawings I went ahead and picked out and drew them up, digitized them so that I could put them on here, and I'll have them as kind of little post-it notes or taped up note cards or things, just kind of decorating the wall behind the backpacks. On those, the colors will stay muted. It'll be, you know, grays and black, maybe maybe some kind of yellowish cardstock sort of, but not really much color wise going on. That way that foreground of those really colorful, bright backpacks will still be the main focus. But I did really love the idea of including the work of the students themselves. I think it would be something that the kids would really think is fun too. And I think from meeting earlier today with the Art Council, they were kind of saying that it seems like kids' drawings are just always fun to look at. It's kind of a timeless kind of thing. So it's fun to include those. I could definitely see including a kind of a little plaque or a notice or something, just specifically thanking the elementary schools that participated in this too, to kind of give credit to those other artists that sent those, because yeah, I think it's just something that the kids would really like. And again, always going back to giving them a sense of ownership of their space. I think the next slide will show a little bit better picture just of the kids' artwork itself. And that is what I've got so far in the design process. Like I said, still a lot of the smaller detail work to go. I'm hoping to have that to show you next month. But yeah, happy to take any questions.
No questions. It's awesome that you're doing this. I can see the passion that you have for what you're doing, and it's badass. Excuse my French, I'm sorry. But also, I mean, you called out Kelly Elementary. I'm an alumni from there, so the involvement from our schools that we have here on the south side, and I'm excited to see. I mean, this is so I'm continued to be excited to what you're going to bring us next time. It's badass. Sorry again.
Stephanie?
Just want to reiterate what Alex said. I think this is a really awesome design. And I love the idea of like pulling in scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and the little like outdoorsy. I know when I was a kid, that was like a big thing for me. Anyway, whatever. I agree. Badass.
Okay, anybody else? Not Allison, back to you, and I imagine you'll turn it over to Jessica.
Yep, I think Jessica's slides are up next, so I'll let her take it from here.
So I did brave the streets for a little bit today, and I went out to the gallery alley. It was like the only art thing that's open. So I was determined to see some art while I was here, so I got to do that. Okay. Pull up.
What's that? I'm in a Zoom meeting. I'm in a Zoom meeting. I don't want to be like, I'm in a Zoom meeting. So
Okay, sorry.
it'll be, no, it's almost over. I hope I'm following a
Brooke, if you just want to scroll through that, that's fine. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. Okay.
There it is. Okay, so this is the original concept that I presented back in, was it October or December was this meeting? You can go to the next one. So for the shapes of the pieces that will be hanging from the ceiling, I pulled those from the reflected ceiling plan. These are shapes that are in the architecture itself. Next one. Yeah, we can skip that one. And then you can kind of see those shapes replicated in the maquette. So I made a 1/12 scale model of the room just so I could get a sense of the space and see how it looks in there. Next. And then there's a pulled out version. You can see all those holes in the ceiling in the model. I do intend to fill that so that the whole ceiling will be filled with these hanging pieces. Next. The model, these pieces are made with vellum, which is a semi-translucent paper, but the actual material will be acrylic. And so it'll be more translucent and the colors will be brighter, bolder. So I think the next slide has the colors. So these are based on the color palette offered by Hutton, just a little more bold and saturated. So we wanted it to be vibrant, but not too primary, because we want to separate the teens from the little kids with a sense of color. Next. And then this is the material. So it'll be clear acrylic again. You can go to the next one. And I'll laminate the acrylic with a colored vinyl, which is also translucent, but it creates that color. And then the words will be etched, laser etched onto the acrylic. And the words are a big part of this piece. Similar to what Heather's concept is of like giving the students ownership of the space, to give the teens just something that reflects them and who they are. So I've been asking teens to give me words that they would use to describe themselves, either what they believe, what they would like to think of themselves, or how they want the world to see them, or even aspirational words. So when I met with the Teen Advisory Board on Saturday, that was really great. And they gave me this awesome list of words. Well, I'll just read you a couple of them. Curious, reader, alive, smart, independent, observant, supportive, daydreamer, colorful, unique. It's all kinds of great words. And then in that meeting, one of the kids suggested that I make the words in multiple languages, which I thought was brilliant. So the library there, or the librarian there, was going to help me do some research and get some demographics about what other languages besides English are spoken in the area. So we'll take that list and translate it. And next one. And then this is the overview of the ceiling. So you can kind of see this radial pattern of how the strands will be laid out in these concentric circles, sort of centered around that middle light panel and then radiating outwards. And so the pieces will be more dense in the center, and then they'll kind of get less dense as it goes out in the space. So the ceiling will likely be all covered, but it'll get less pieces as it goes further out. And also the pieces, the strands in the center will be shorter, and then it'll be longer around the edges. So it kind of creates this little dome effect over top of the seating area. Next one. And so to avoid putting a hole in the ceiling for every single strand, you can see there's lots of strands there. I'll have some kind of framework built that can have just a few anchor points that go into the ceiling, and then all the strands can hang off of that. Next. Yeah, same. I already mentioned that before. It'll just create like a dome sensation over type of space. When I presented this to the design council this morning, they gave me some great feedback. So this might change a little bit in layout and scale, but I will present that to you next month, I guess. And then I think the last slide is just a closer view of the model. So that's what I've got. Love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Any thoughts for Jessica?
I have a question.
Sure.
The material they're made out of, is it, when it's treated and completed, is it a hard surface? Like, will they tinkle when the air conditioner comes on or move?
Oh, yes. Yes, they will
Okay.
move. Yeah, there's a lot of vents in the ceiling. And I just learned today that the purpose of those is to keep frost off the windows. Because we have those big, beautiful windows and the two walls. So you have all this natural light coming through. So yes, the pieces will move and sway. And so it has a kinetic element. And then also with all that natural light coming through, that translucent color will cast colorful shadows all over the floor and the walls and all the surfaces. And it will make a little bit of noise too. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? See none. Thank you, Jessica. Allison, do you have
Thank
any
you.
final comments?
I do not. Thank you everyone for your time and your input. It was been very good and very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you all. We'll get ready to wrap up the meeting. We'll move on to the board agenda. So updates, issues, and reports. I'll give a brief update, and then if anybody has any comments. Next meeting will be at the Wichita Water Center where Brooke is right now. You can see the empty room. I've never been inside that room before, but that's where we'll be in February. And we'll be actually there through June because of library renovation. So it's just on the other side of our district on District 3. This past weekend, I was supposed to have a fire town hall at Station 17, which is over on Maple. We were specifically going to talk about the new station over on Pawnee and Mays, but we canceled it because we all know that our firefighters were getting far more calls on Saturday morning. I think on my way to drop off bagels to them as a thank you for canceling on them. I think I saw 7 accidents, and when I was leaving, they were pulling out to go to a call. So I'm very glad we ended up canceling it, and perhaps in the future we'll reschedule it, but they were very gracious, and we'll have updates at our other town halls, just at other locations as well. That's number 1. Tomorrow, the South Central Kansas Legislative, I don't know.
Delegation.
Delegation, there we go. I couldn't think of the last word. Is having their public forum at 7 p.m. at the Wichita somebody help me.
Workforce Development Center, I believe.
Yes, Workforce Development Center over on Amadon. So that's the opportunity before all the legislators go back to Topeka. They basically just take public comment from individuals for a couple hours. It's always very entertaining. And so I would recommend attending. I'm going to try to attend. And I haven't heard that it's being rescheduled. So recommend doing that. Normally it lasts like 2 hours, but there's usually like 100 people there to have public comment. We're actually trying to look at maybe a similar model for the council. Instead of just the evening meetings, maybe look at a process where we have just an opportunity for public forum. Sometimes the evening meeting, it's hard to figure out what topic people want to hear about. One of our evening meetings was about parking. Well, then that lasted till 1 a.m. and that's probably not fair. Though that was the most people that we had tuned into a meeting at any point. I think on YouTube at like 12:30 at night, there's 120 people still watching. So some people are watching us when they went to bed, or maybe it was soothing for them to go to sleep, but it was wild. this upcoming meeting on Tuesday, January is actually probably gonna be a pretty quiet month for the council. We don't have that many contentious items, which is probably good. A few things, we are talking about the legislative agenda that we're gonna be passing before we go to Topeka Hill Day. Nothing is going to be unique to Wichita this year. We're trying a different model. So we're going to have the exact same legislative agenda as Sedgwick County, REAP, and the Chamber of Commerce locally. And so there's not any other additional agenda items. Talks about dependable infrastructure, workforce development, affordable housing, and I forgot, maybe drought mitigation, I think are the four issues that we're talking about. So instead of getting into the weeds about a lot of policy that we may just hear from the bench, these are things we universally agree with. And so that will be coming up. We also, if you didn't know, public comment, we allow public comment on consent agenda items that are pulled now. And then we also allow public comment on that's open to the public. So it used to be you had to sign up 2 weeks in advance. Now, if you come before the council, you don't have to sign up 2 weeks in advance. If there's open spots, you have the opportunity to speak. What's really cool about that, I think we started that in October, and we've had 7 people that just showed up that weren't planning on speaking. 3 of them were homeless individuals that came to speak that may have not known how to sign up to speak in public comment prior. So I think it's a huge win for public engagement for the community. And then last thing, two more things. Southwest Business Association, Paul Davis, some of you may be familiar with him, passed away this week. So keep his family in your prayers. He was a long time South Wichita advocate, and it was very vocal. He was always very jovial. And then on January 14th, we're choosing a new vice mayor. How the council works, unlike the county commission, we usually don't have a contentious election for vice mayor. It goes on a rotation cycle. So this past year, Maggie Ballard was vice mayor. Her term will end on January 10th. And JV Johnston is next in line for vice mayor this year. So JV will likely be the next vice mayor. I'm scheduled to be vice mayor in 2026. So that's the rotation throughout that. Obviously, vice mayor is if the mayor can't obtain their duties, they step in. Trying to think. That is all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me, or does anybody have anything else for the good of comment? I saw Gentry. Looks like she has an event coming up too.
Thanks, Dalton. I'll just give a little context about it. We are bringing in a speaker from a national nonprofit media organization called Strong Towns. He'll be coming to Wichita and giving a presentation on his best-selling book that came out in 2024 called Escaping the Housing Trap. It contends with the idea that housing is an investment, but housing is also shelter, and that it's really hard to have both of those things in your community. And get people housed, but also make sure that people are able to build generational wealth through their housing. So it's going to be a really interesting and engaging community event. It'll be at the Kansas Leadership Center on the 28th. Check it out. I hope to see some of you there. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
I shared a link in the chat to the kansasopen.gov. And it's a great resource. It's where if you want information on enrollment, funding per pupil, budgets, things like that, it's where I got the data on the Goddard School Board. You're welcome to go there. It comes directly from the Kansas Department of Education.
Okay. Thanks, John. Anybody else?
Just wanted to hear a bit more about with Lily. I saw in the news recently she had tried to go out to stay a night at the homeless shelter and was turned away. I admire her doing that. Just wanted to hear a bit more, I guess, on your opinions on the whole situation.
Yeah, I think I will have a lot more questions about that on Tuesday, because I also was planning on going the day after Lily, and after she was asked to leave the facility, I didn't want to try, though I think I'm far less recognizable than Lily. So I think that was part of it. I think I could probably go and nobody recognized me.
Probably.
So the mayor showed up. She tried. So 2 meetings ago, there was a homeless individual that challenged the mayor and council to stay at the shelter to see the conditions firsthand. And so the mayor showed up. I think it was on a Sunday evening, if I remember right. There were plenty of open beds. There were more than, I think, 100 open beds that night. So she wasn't taking the bed from any individual. She spent around 2 hours at the facility and then was asked to leave the facility. And so I will have more questions on probably why on Tuesday, especially that I think if we want to see firsthand the real experiences that people are feeling there, if we say ahead of time that we're going to go to the shelter, I guarantee you that we're probably not going to get the same experiences as everybody else. And so Dawn, the director, did message the council this week asking us, she wanted to take us on a personal tour of the shelter. I'm going to try to make sure mine's at in the evening, so I can see firsthand in the evening, because I think of the day is probably very different than in the evening. And then I'm going to try to work on volunteering in the evening as well. So I will have questions on why she couldn't stay there, because I do think it would have been a very different experience for me, for her, or for any other council person to be able to see it. So Stephanie, I see your hands up.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say that I appreciate that you're asking questions, because I mean, I don't understand it. And, you know, we heard earlier from police that you had like 76 people out of 120 that turned away. So like, I think it's really important for us to try and figure out why that is. And yeah, I think the best way to do it is not to plan when you're coming, to just go, right? So I hope you get some answers to that, because I'd love to know too. I mean, I knew what she was doing. She was asked to do that.
Yeah.
So I would like you to ask. Thank you.
And the city has, you know, invested more than $6 million on
Yes.
this
Heck,
project.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yes.
it's one of
Yes.
the largest investments we made in recent history, and something council universally agrees on. So I think we should make sure that our $6 million is being spent well.
Yep. Yep.
So thanks, Stephanie. John?
Since Alex brought up one instance with the mayor, I'll bring up the other. And I just want to, I've already told her, but I'll tell you, this nonsense about Wichita creating a reparations board is absolute absurdity. And if that comes up again, feel free to, at least this member of your DAB tells you that any dime spent on that is a complete and total waste of taxpayer money.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear from any individual if they want to offer ideas or they want to meet with me. Mary Dean hasn't asked to meet with me. I would be glad to meet with her if she does request. I know I've received emails from her. She's spoken from the bench as well, but she's been leading this for, I think, the past couple years. And so she usually speaks about every month before the council, but I haven't had any personal conversation with her regarding it. And if she does, I'll be happy to talk to her about it. So anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we almost made it to an hour and a half. But 7:32, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Okay, let's go with Alex. I'll give June the second because she moved it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, sounds good. I will see you soon. Bye, y'all.
Drive carefully.
Yes.